Hello and welcome to All Stats Aren't We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings on at Ellen Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Adam Elliott and I'm joined today. Who else could it be? It's Martin Riley. Martin, how you doing?
I cannot complain. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, I've had better weeks. I went to A&E last week. I was seeing in under 2 hours, which is pretty good going. Thought I'd broken my ankle. Turns out I'd not fully dislocated it, but it'd been like popped out and then popped back in, which was very painful. It means I've been in bed most of this week, and my cat's been missing for the last 2 days, and that's not like her. She'd normally only go out for a day or so. So I'm a bit worried about that, and I hope she's back soon. Otherwise, everything else is fine, but those two things are annoying/stressful. So yeah, that's where I'm at. How about yourself? Have you eaten yet? We are obviously recording a bit earlier than usual. You'll be able to see on YouTube. It is quite bright in both of our bedrooms. But yeah, how are you?
Yeah, so I've not had my tea yet. As you say, it's a bit earlier than normal, but I've got food which is cooking at the moment. I don't even know what to describe it with. We had a beef brisket joint which had been sent by mistake. It was like a smaller one. It was meant to be for us as a Sunday roast, but they sent this tiny one, which wouldn't have been enough for all of us. So instead, I've repurposed it and I've chopped it up, fried it with some peppers and onions, tomatoes. Then filled it with some like beef stock, and now I'm sort of like cooking it slowly. So not really sure what to describe it with. I'm going to have it with some rice. So, and it's got like Cajun spice into it. So maybe something like a gumbo kind of thing with beef, something like that. But I'm looking forward to it. But yeah,
Very nice.
how about you?
I'm going to have a curry, but it's not been made yet. So that will be forthcoming after this podcast has concluded. There's been quite a lot happened because obviously we had an international break, which was eventful for Leeds United in some ways, where Gabriel Gudmundsson has secured his place at the World Cup this summer, and you've got Altanaka beating England, the first Asian team to ever do that, and he was part of the team that did that. And then others in the Leeds United colours for their country, not going so well. The Welsh boys had a bit of a mixed time. It ended pretty badly, where Dan James obviously scored an absolute worldie, but they went out. But obviously, as well as that, we've got the cup football to talk about. And I guess, even though it's not real, we are in a semi-final. Feels like we probably should talk about that. But before we do, should we start with the injuries that have come from that? Not the kind of smaller ones, we'll do that later on. But the three main ones that are definitely going to miss the game we're about to discuss, the Man United game, Dan James, who won't be playing his former club, and Anton Sack and Joe Rodon, and they all feel pretty significant to me.
I'd say the first two are Stack and Roden, but I wouldn't say James is that considerable considering he's not really played too much football for us this season. And yeah, got to feel bad for the guy though, because he just hasn't been able to get this season going whatsoever. It's been disrupted constantly by injury, and considering the type of player he is, that ain't a good thing for for what's left of his career. So yeah, not good, not great for him personally, but for us as a club, it's not as massive an impact as what the other injuries are. Stack is a very bad injury for us. And so is Roden. They're both key players to us this season. Roden, because he's one of our only centre-back with real recovery pace. And Stack, because for one, he keeps Ilya Gruev out of the side. At least at the moment he is anyway. But he's just a fantastic footballer who we will definitely miss for this amount of time. Yeah, but at least like 3-4 weeks they're going to be out for, I think, May, I think Farke said. So yeah, those aren't great. And then the other ones which are more doubtful, Gudmundsson and Okafor, and was there a third who was a doubt? I can't remember.
I think there was. I'm going to look now. So many that we're just forgetting how many
yeah.
it is.
Biol, yeah, of course. Yeah, it wasn't even that long ago that we were actually fully injury free, and now this happens. So yeah, that's just fantastic. That's what happens when you play 120 minutes of football
needlessly when you were 2-0 up. Yeah, with 92nd minute on the clock, 2-0 up. Paul asked, were the injuries worth it for an FA Cup semi? And I'm still of the opinion that I would love to win the cup, even if that meant we went down. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm not saying that you can't do both either, but I would much rather try and win the cup than stay up. I know other people are split on that. There's a pretty 50-50, maybe 60-40 divide in the fan base in that sense, but I know that a lot of people think that staying up is more important because of the way we can build. But my answer to that is they were worth it to get through, but then the point is we're playing Chelsea, and it's not the easiest game, and it's very likely that we will lose. So then it feels like it's not worth it. If we do go on to win it, I think it's considerably worth it for my money. And by the time we play the final, a lot of players will be back, providing there's not any other injuries. So I'm personally of the opinion that it was worth. You're going to say that it wasn't?
It depends on what the repercussions of that are. If these players are out for a long time and then we end up getting relegated, then it absolutely was not worth it, especially if we don't win the cup. Because if we go out against in the semi-finals, what the hell was the point? What do you get from a semi-final? other than
there's not even a third place playoff like there is in like the World Cup and the Euro.
No, exactly. So you get nothing from it other than Daniel Farke having a bit of a feather in his cap for doing it, even if we only had to beat one Premier League side to get to this point, which is a whole string of luck in itself anyway. Mm-hmm. We don't often get that luck in the Cup.
I was hoping for a bit more with Southampton, but oh well.
No. Well, Chelsea is the second best option that we had left.
Or second worst. Are you glass half full or glass half empty?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so you can ask me that question again if getting to the semi-final of the Cup was worth it if we do get relegated.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about West Ham then. Josie wanted us to speak about it a little bit. We're not going to go into loads of detail because this is not a review today, and this is just meant to be the news section. But she was asking on Blue Sky, will you be doing a match review for this game? I know you don't do cup games, but understanding what the hell went wrong in injury time would be interesting. Is it tiredness or something more fundamental? I'm so glad it was okay in the end. Funnily enough, there's been a data point revealed today that maybe explains this somewhat, which is that Leeds, I want to quote this properly, we've put it in our group chat. You can answer the question if you want yourself now, Martin, while I find this, because it's going to take me a second.
Well, yeah, for me, what went wrong in injury time, I think it was more just a massive momentum swing was the big thing. Obviously, we weren't expecting to concede 2 goals in the final stages of the added on time. That was a massive sucker punch, and it really swung the momentum in West Ham's favour. And following that, they really had the best of all the moments going forward after that. And prior to that, really, we had been in control of the fixture quite well, and they weren't generating a whole lot. And then suddenly a goal happens, and it's a kick in the teeth, and it can really knock your team for 6. And we don't speak much about intangibles on this pod, but football is full of them, and it's very quick. The momentum can so quickly change from one goal, and that's what happened here for me, on top of the point that you're going to make, which I also think is part of it too.
Yeah, which is Leeds have applied the most high-intensity pressures to opponents this season with 12,556 and ranked second for pressures in the opposition's half, 6,252 behind Everton. Only 3 teams have won possession following a high-intensity pressure more often than Leeds as well. So we are one of the most sort of intense teams. We talked about this a bit this season, but this is where you need to freshen things up. And you tie that in with the fact that only 3 teams in the Premier League have made subs less often than Daniel Farke this season for Leeds. It all culminates into, I think the players are probably quite physically tired, and late into games are probably quite physically tired. And I know we had an international break, but think about what Joe Rodon and Ethan Ampadu and others had to go through during that as well. They barely got a rest. So I just think a lot of them are probably fatigued, and that plays into it as well. Mental fatigue then kicks in if you're physically tired. So it's a culmination of all of that, I think. So it has been a problem all season for us. Johnny Cooper did the stats, didn't he, on full time, that I think we're the team now that have conceded the most goals in the 90th minute or later in English football this season, in all of the tiers of English football, which is mental. 2 in this game, 1 against West Ham in the other game, so they're a team that's done that to us 3 times, but still that is a too common occurrence. So we seem to fade. Those numbers I've just said are really impressive, but imagine what they're like in the sort of 80th minute onwards. I imagine they drop off a cliff, and that can't all just be tactical. That's just the players being physically knackered. So that's part of it for me too. I'm glad we got through in the end, but yeah, the last sort of... We were actually pretty good all the way up until about the 85th minute. We looked in control, and then they suddenly had a bit of a flurry for 5 minutes, scored again, and then extra time wasn't too pretty. We didn't create too much. They had the slight better of that. Perry had that moment, didn't he, which was frightening, but it was fine in the end because he was offside. But I'm glad we won on penalties. It's also nice for the players to have built a bit of confidence by winning on penalties a couple of times. Who knows, if we do go all the way with this cup, we might need to win on penalties again. Anything else to add here, Martin?
No, I think that about covers it. It's a combination of those two things: the momentum shift, and then us not being able to keep up the intensity throughout, which led to us West Ham having better of us in added time.
Just to add, the subs were earlier here because we were forced into it with injuries and whatnot, and you only get 3 subs slots, so he had to use his third one earlier as well. But in general, that has been a problem this season with the timings of those. So even though they were better here, people say, "Oh, you can't complain about that here." No, I think you still can because it's a combination of everything over the season. And then we've already discussed the fact we've got Chelsea, so we won't go into that. But yeah, one of my best mates is a Chelsea fan, so that's going to be fun. It's on Marathon Day in London. It makes no sense why that's happened, but here we are. We're going to talk about Man United today, our other big rivals in English football. Not really much to say other than they do have a new manager. We managed to get Ruben Amorim sacked. Well, he got himself sacked, but he did leave his role after the last game we played in January, not that long ago. And now Michael Carrick's behind the wheel. He's not the permanent manager yet, but he has a contract to the end of the season, and you wouldn't be that surprised if he does get given it, given how they've done under him so far. The other thing to say before I jump into asking Martin a few questions is, in terms of transfer activity, they did nothing in January, so it's the same team. The thing they've had this season is the fewest games played of any team in the Premier League because they went out of the FA Cup and the League Cup in the first round and didn't qualify for Europe, so they're playing 40 games, which means that they've been able to kind of get players back now, and they've been in slightly better shape recently, even though there's a few injuries we will discuss later. They've definitely been in slightly better shape. And one of the big ones of Carrick coming in was that Kobbie Mainoo, who wasn't being used at all, really, or not in a good way, he's used quite high up the pitch. He's now being used in a deeper midfield role. Carrick's kept him. He's now signing a new contract. He's stayed in January because Carrick came in. So that, I think they were quite fortunate for that because he's looked pretty good for them. Let's talk about them in possession then, Martin, under Carrick, and how they've kind of changed a little bit since they were under, obviously, Ruben Amorim. Their shape has changed for one. What do they look like in possession?
So they've switched to the 4-2-3-1. Obviously, most people should be aware Amorim was a back three disciple, and that the change to a back four was what Man United fans seem to have been wanting for a long time from how badly it was going, but it wasn't really about the shape, it was more about what they was doing inside it, and that has shifted quite a bit under Carrick. They seem to have like a nice mixture of playing short, going long when they need to. They can get the ball forward quite quickly, and they've got the attackers who can hit in transition really effectively. They've got game-changing individuals who can take a nothing moment and turn it into a piece of magic, like Bruno Fernandes, Matheus Cunha. There's those two, and then there's other players around them who are also pretty damn good. So Carrick's problem, I think, at Borough when he was there was they didn't have enough of those game-changing players for the level, and with this Man United side, they kind of do. A lot of people were pretty down on the Man United squad, but I've always felt for a while now that there's a lot of good individuals in this team, and it just needed the right sort of system to get the best out of them, and it does appear like Carrick is getting the best out of them with the way that they're looking to do now. The game I watched was the actual one loss that they've had on the Carrick, which is funny. I didn't even intend it that way either, because I never look at results before I start watching a game when I'm doing this. I always just find a game that I can find before I've looked at the result. And it just so happened that it was against Newcastle. And that wasn't a great
the 10-man game.
for them.
Yeah, right,
yeah, yes. That was not a great game for them, and I'll get into some of the reasons why. Some of them were out of possession reason, which weren't great, and others were in possession. They seem to be going for this quite long, direct ball through to the left channel. It was quite often going for it from the goalkeeper, and it just wasn't really working. And that often led to Newcastle being able to hit them quickly in transition after the going for that ball. And another thing which they had problems with in that game was right possession structure, because it's been said that he's got like a 4-4-2 narrow press, which he's got, and Newcastle were able to take advantage of that quite often. Leeds fans are quite knowledgeable on what is the weakness in a narrow 4-4-2 press. It's the old switch of play. Newcastle were taking advantage of that quite often. Whichever one of the deeper midfielders who was able to hit that switch, Tonali or Guimaraes, or even sometimes just left back, just flinging it across the other side to the right back. That was quite often the thing that they did quite frequently in this one, and it caused a lot of problems for Borough. Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, for Man United, it caused them a lot of problems, and I think that was one of the reasons. I think he got the setup wrong in this one. With Newcastle are quite willing to go direct and not play with the press as much as what Carrick would want them to, and that seems to be a weakness of this. It could have been that Newcastle were on top, having a good day, and it was at home, so it could have been that. But it did definitely seem like a bad day overall. But the rest of his time has been quite successful. Although I will note that they haven't really come across what we would term as a haramball opponent as yet. So then that was one of his weaknesses at Borough, was when the team did do a really stinky low block. They did struggle with Borough, but at Borough they didn't have as many game-changing individuals as what they do here. So that could be different here, but that's kind of a clue as to what I'm going to say about how Leeds should approach this one. But I'll let you speak now.
I'm just going to quote some stuff that I've read from an Athletic article that luckily came out this week, detailing the differences under Carrick since he's replaced Amorim and how Man United look. And it's interesting, to be honest. I didn't necessarily pick up on all this while watching, because I've seen a few of their games recently, to be fair. That Newcastle one was funny. That goal at the end, I don't know if you saw the winner from Rasula. Just bangs it in with his weaker foot on the break.
I did not watch that long, to be honest.
You missed a really good goal.
What I need. I don't care about the individual moments. It's more about the tactical setup, Adam.
That's fair. I like goals personally. I watch a lot of football highlights. Anyway, they're crossing less under Carrick is one of the big things. They are attacking either from the right or more centrally, tend to, when they've got the ball in settle play anyway. They've seen a drop in number of crosses attempted, falling from 17.1 to 13.8. Under Carrick, they've had spells of possession have been longer and more intricate as well. Basically, a lot more pass sequences that are larger, 12.2 plus 10 passes sequences compared to 9.7 with Amorim, which is a big one. Direct speed of attack hasn't slowed, which you'd expect when they were going to retain the ball a bit more. That's kind of stayed broadly the same. It's dropped off by 0.01, which is nothing. But they're just able to kind of possess the ball better. They're a better footballing side, and that helps them both offensively and defensively as well. Taking more time on the ball, their sequences are lasting longer as well. So they attack quickly, but they also have more time on the ball, and they also play a lot more pass sequences that are a longer stretch. So a better footballing side for sure. They don't have to rely on transitions basically to get them forward as much, which I guess Carrick did want that at Borough, like wanted more transitional play in the sense that his attacks were looking at their best when they were like that, but he wasn't always able to do it because he wanted the ball as well. And then, the big change is the amount of times they're getting the ball to Fernandez in a kind of half right position in between kind of central midfield and right wing. And he loves to cross from deep. He's one of the best in the world at it. And they've got the ball to him in that situation a heck of a lot. Under Amorim, they were still getting into him in that area a lot, but the percentage of chances created under Carrick from that kind of angle is 47.6%. So that is going to be the big one. Whoever's drifting into that left half space for us, their right half space, going to have to do a lot of work in that area because of how they set up. Off the ball is probably where they've actually seen the biggest improvement, which is, I think, the most interesting part. You've already detailed the way they defend in a 4-4-2 block narrowly, and the way Fernandez and Mbeumo will be the two that end up being the front two, because Mbeumo plays as a 9 in this system, which is a bit odd when he was his best as a kind of left-footed, right-sided forward last year at Brentford, but he's taken to the role fairly well. But out of possession, they will be the two. And then it's the natural two banks of 4, of course. But they're just so much better, like in terms of the chances created against them. They were conceding 2.2 big chances under Amorim, 1.3 now under Carrick. It's fallen quite a lot. Their pressing sequences are a touch lower than they were under Amarim, but it just seems they're just a smarter team out of possession. The XG conceded is dropping 0.9 per game since his arrival, and it was 1.3 previously under Amarim. So it's a big improvement, let's put it that way. And the overall trade-off on in possession and out of possession in terms of their improvement is maybe not reflected by the results, because I think the results have been even better than this, but it still shows that there's been a big improvement in the sample size that we've got so far, which is a XG difference per game of 0.42 under Carrick, and it was 0.33 under Amarim. And there was a point in the early part of the season where people were quite impressed with Man United's underlying numbers under Amarim, so that's really solid under Carrick for sure. So let's talk about some of the results then, because they have been better than I guess the performances suggest. I think they've still been much improved, but they've probably had a bit of good variance go their way. So what are they looking like in terms of the underlying data and the recent form and results, Martin, currently?
So under Carrick in the league as a whole, they've scored the second most goals in this 10-game spell in the league, and seventh most goals against. So seventh least goals against, apologies.
Fewest?
But fewest, that's it. Then the XG numbers are seventh in the league for XG in this time. So that's a bit of a disparity there, because seventh for XG, second for goals scored. So there's definitely some funkiness going on with the variation on the chances at the scoring. Maybe they're getting a little bit of fortune there. But then on the other side of it, goals against, like I said, seventh fewest, but the XG against is fifth fewest, so a little bit going the other way on the XG against side of things. But in this time, they've played Man City, beat them 2-0. They've played Arsenal, beat them 3-2, 3-2 against Fulham, 2-0 against Spurs, 1-1 against West Ham, 1-0 against Everton, 2-1 against Palace, loss against Newcastle, 2-1, 3-1 against Villa, another win, and most recently a draw against Bournemouth, 2-2. So there's had some quite tough opponents in that spell, also some quite stinky ones too. So yeah, the one which probably they would have been expecting to win would be in West Ham away, in which that would probably be the one Harran ball team that they've really played, and they didn't get a win in that one. That was away from home, of course, so that does put it a bit more in favour of West Ham, but it was still, with the form that they showed in that, you would have been expecting them to win that one. They did have high 65% possession numbers, so that is the kind of thing that we should be hoping to achieve. Keep things tight, don't allow many chances either way, and hopefully that should work in our favour. But they've definitely improved much in terms of all over the pitch under Carrick, and obviously the game I watched isn't a fair reflection of all the rest of the games. I'm not going to watch 10 full 90s in preparation for a game against Man United. I love this pod, but no, I don't love it that much.
No. Who's got the time when you've got the kids you've got? I watched a few of those. I watched the Arsenal game. They were very lucky in that one. That was a couple of worldy goals from range, powerful shots that went in their favour. And against City, the game before it, they were genuinely exceptional. They were really, really good off the ball. They moved the ball quickly when they had it. They were able to break on them very comfortably. They created the better of the chances, even though they had 32% of the ball. They were really, really good. I'm really surprised, to be honest, at the fact that Carrick's improved things more out of possession than in possession, because I wouldn't say that's what he was known for at Borough.
No.
At Borough, it was kind of the opposite. It was like, they play some pretty fancy stuff. Some nice.
They did have some bozos in their backline, though.
They did indeed, but they played some nice combinations where they'd have like three players triangulating around the ball, and they'd play 1-2s through the opposition to get the ball up the pitch. That kind of thing. Good rotations off the ball in those wide areas. Whereas here, off the ball, much, much better. Everything's sort of tighter. They don't give a load away. And yeah, they're just not the most creative team in the world, but they have managed to score quite a few goals. As you've put on the XG numbers, the disparity of kind of 5 places between what the XG they've generated and the amount of goals they've actually scored in this recent run. So a bit of variance there, but otherwise they are a better side. Do we think they'll do anything different to normal against Leeds? Do you expect them essentially to dominate a lot of the ball here still?
I would expect so. I can't imagine there being anything majorly different. Although I don't think Carrick will like the fact that Daniel Farke has a good record against him individually as a manager. Like we were talking about
wins and 1 defeat.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were talking about before this, they didn't do very well against us under him with Daniel Farke as coach. So you'd think that would be playing on his mind a little bit. I think most managers kind of have that sort of competitiveness in them against individual managers, and he'll be wanting to set the record straight. So I would expect nothing different majorly, but I know they have had a little bit more time to prepare for this one, with it being after the international break, but I would expect them to still say to what they've been working well under him, and he's pretty, I'm trying to think of the word now, he's pretty set in his ways, really, really what I'm going to say. He's got a particular style that he wants to coach, and I can't see him varying too much from that, outside it, little tweaks here and there.
I agree. It's actually really annoying that I kind of liked Carrick as a player, even though he played for them, because of the kind of player that he was. He was always a bit underrated. I think people are kind of remembering him for better than he was now, because at the time they didn't remember him for how good he was. Like, they didn't actually give him the credit he deserved. So there's a bit of nostalgia there. And then as a manager, I really liked him at Borough, even though he couldn't really get it right out of possession, or like the defenders weren't quite suited to what he needed to do. He needed some players that could defend large spaces. He needed defenders who were also good on the ball. He was asking a lot for Championship defenders. But I don't like him now. I don't have to like him. He's the Man United manager. So it's a bit of a weird one. I guess the standout players, and you can still like individual players, even if you don't like the football team, I will say that. And there are some individuals I do really like from this Man United side. Just before you talk to me about some that maybe stand out for positive reasons and stand out for negative reasons, because they might be players that we can kind of see weaknesses in. I just wanted to point out the goal involvements this season. It's crazy. They've got 5 players over 9 goals or more, 9 goal involvements or more. That is Casemiro, which is mental that he's got 7 goals from his position, but a lot from set pieces. Mateus Cunha's only got 9, which is a little bit disappointing for someone of his talent who's come in. Benjamin Sesko's got amazing numbers for his minutes, 11 in about 17 90s, which is fantastic, to be fair, for a young striker just coming into the Premier League. Brian Mbeumo has been solid, but not spectacular, with 13. There's a huge jump, though, to you-know-who, Bruno Fernandes. He has 25 goal involvements, which is almost double the second most in Brian Mbeumo. So he's clearly their best player. He's clearly dragged this team a lot. I don't want to say they're a complete one-man team, but there is an element of that in terms of just the level between him and their second best player is massive. He's definitely going to be in contention for Premier League Player of the Season, and he's almost certain to win Man United's award as well. So, yeah, those are some of the goal involvements, and I just wanted to point that out quickly. But who do you think is going to potentially struggle against us, and who do you think is potentially going to shine other than Fernandes?
I don't really want to labour on this too much. They've got a lot of players who are decent, and I think Fernandes is definitely the best for them. I hate the guy. He really winds me up, honestly. Yeah, this might be my lead starness coming through, but yeah, he's clearly a fantastic player, but he annoys me. It's just one of those players who I think a lot of fans are like that with me. You either love him or you hate him kind of vibe, and most of the love is coming from the Man United side, and most of the hate is coming from outside of Man United, obviously. But I do think they are very reliant on Bruno. But players who I also like, I've liked Mateus Cunha for a long, long time, ever since we were linked with him under Bielsa quite a few moons ago. Šeško is unrefined and still got some learning to do in terms of the physical side of things, I think, but he's definitely been able to score goals, and there is something there. You just need to refine that a bit more. I quite like Patrick Dorgu, although he's probably not going to be involved in this one. And Diallo, he's also a fun player, but hasn't really been hitting the same heights that maybe Man United fans were expecting of him this season, although he has got their Player of the Match award quite a few times. So I'm thinking he must be doing a lot of things in terms of the underlyings outside of the goal scoring, which are just as important.
Yeah, good dribbler, decent off the ball. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But in terms of the players who I think we can maybe get at, this is more difficult because the players who I would want to get at them aren't going to be available. The main one I'd be looking at now is if he is even going to play, which is Gabby Goodmanson. We know, I think Okafor's probably going to miss. I know it was said he's got a doubt, but with his recent injury, I don't think we'll risk him for this one. Maybe he'll come off the bench, but I'm not expecting him to start. I think it'll be the main one who we can look to carry the ball forward and look at. I think probably going to be Gabby. So if we can get Gabby on Diogo Dalot, I think that'll be the main one, I think, in their back line, although he is generally solid defensively. Goodmanson's got the beating of most players in terms of pace, and I think that is one we can look at. Outside of that, with the players we've got out at the moment, it's a tough one. Calvert-Lewin is going to have a better day because Harry Maguire is not available for this one.
That is massive.
Yeah, huge for us. A lot of Leeds fans
definitely better in the air.
Yeah, a lot of Leeds fans don't really like Harry Maguire, but I don't mind him. I think he's
very good.
He's underrated, I think, is what it is.
And he's also one of the best centre-backs in the air in world football.
Yes, he is. He's an absolute monster defensively in aerial battles, and with him not on the pitch for them, and with Calvert-Lewin for us, that's something we can get at. Yoro isn't amazing aerially, but he's not poor either. But I would expect Calvert-Lewin to get the better of him. And then the other one, he's got no chance. The Butcher, he's not going to have it.
Me, so.
He's not going to be marking Calvert-Lewin. It's going to be Lenny Yoro who marks him. So that's going to be the main battle. Yeah, like, if we can make the best use of Calvert-Lewin, that's an area that we can look to get at them.
It's just a shame we don't have Anton Stack snapping onto second balls, because it would have been a good game plan in that sense when we are under the cosh, just to hit Calvert-Lewin like that for this game. Because as you say, Maguire being out is maybe the biggest one for us in terms of the potential injuries and suspensions for them. There's been a couple of doubts, Sesko and Bumo, but I think they're very minor. There hasn't been an update today on that. Lisandro Martinez is also a slight doubt, but I think he could potentially play. The big ones that are out are Harry Maguire is suspended, Matthijs de Ligt is injured until a few more weeks yet, Patrick Dorgu also injured. I might be missing another one, to be fair, from this list, but essentially two of their better centre-backs in the air missing is very good for us. So that means their lineup should look something like, Martin.
So it should be Lamans in goal, Dalot at right back, Martinez and Yoro at centre back, Shaw at left back, Casemiro and Mainu in midfield, Ahmad, maybe Mbeumo. I'm probably going to say if he's available, Mbeumo will play on the right side. Maybe Fernandez at 10, Cunha on the left, and Šeško up front. But it could be any combination of those players. For Mbeumo could start up front. He has started up front for them. I'd think they might want Ahmad in there for the direct dribbling and trying to attack that side where Gabby is going to be and could be further forward. So I think that'll be what they'll look for, but we'll see.
Yeah, can't really dispute that. That looks about right. We won't labour on this. In terms of Manchester United's underlyings over the course of the season, obviously this is under two different managers, Martin, and that must be caveated. What are they looking like over the season? Because they are in the top four right now. I think they are third, actually, at the time we're recording this. Aston Villa haven't overtaken them, have they? So they're very much in contention to finish in the Champions League places. But what's the underlying data saying on that?
So yeah, like you've already said, this is caveated by this is very noisy. It's under two different managers. But in terms of high recoveries, they've got the fourth most in the league. That is something which has stayed relatively consistent across both managers. So I think that one is probably one which is one that you can trust, that they are quite an intense side out of possession. The PPDA, the 8th most intense, high recoveries against 12th. So that teams do recover the ball against them quite frequently. But I think that this just speaking of what I've seen, it seems like that may be less now, because I think they're willing to mix it up in the build-up phases more under Carrick, and I think he has a few more solutions for build-up than what Amarin had. So I think that may be better than what it was. The expected threat, they're second in the league, so across the season they've had good expected threat numbers by that, in that they've generated lots of dangerous moments but never quite got the shot away from those. Set piece XG 10th, set piece XG against 10th, which is quite fun. Just both of them 10, so they're both middle of the ground for both, but they have scored quite a lot of goals from set pieces. Casemiro is a big threat from set pieces. Having Harry Maguire out is a big thing for us from set pieces, both defending them and attacking them. And they'll have just less people who can attack the ball in set pieces with him not being there, and obviously Delit as well being out. Then in terms of the open play stuff, they're second in the league for open play XG, which is quite impressive considering how bad they were under Amarin. And I wonder how much of that is Carrick's doing and that. But like I say, it's very noisy, is this data. And open play XG again is fourth. So they're pretty solid across the season. So we should look at that and think that it's definitely going to be a challenge for us, especially since these numbers have been improved since Carrick have come in across the board.
Yeah, it looks like the XG numbers have stayed broadly the same under both managers. It's just the expected goals against that's improved quite a bit. In terms of their overall numbers in the league, they are fifth for expected points, behind Liverpool fourth, Chelsea third, Man City second, and Arsenal first. And then for expected goal difference, I also really like that FOTMob have added this in now. There's a huge disparity between the sort of big five and then the rest of the league. Brentford had the sixth most, 6.9, which is very little extra than a few teams, but then there's a huge jump to Liverpool with 14, Man United with 14.8. Yes, they're quite a way off Arsenal and City, who are the standout teams in terms of expected goal difference, but still been a very strong team in that sense as well over the course of the season. So looks like they're having a much better season while they've been able to kind of balance injuries better with less competitions being played and fewer competitions being played, I should say. But yeah, anyway, I think that's everything on Manchester United. So we're going to talk about the Leeds part of this podcast now. So let's move on to talking about the lineup for Leeds then, Martin. Obviously, we've already mentioned the situation with injuries. Just to remind everyone, Stack's definitely out, Rodon's definitely out, James is definitely out, Beale is struggling with a knock, Okafor has a slight back problem, and Goodmanson is progressing and has been training recently, but not heavy training, and is still a doubt. When he does this, normally I would say the players that he's put as doubts do end up making it, but it's not always that black and white. I'd say it's probably like an 80% of the time that's happened and 20% of the time it's not, something like that. So that does come into this. If we're going to try and guess a very positive lineup and then a more negative one, if they're all missing, all six players are missing, we should probably do both. And first of all, I want to start on someone we didn't discuss actually, which is from the West Ham game, one of our goal scorers. And Paul, again, I love the editor, asked, should Tanaka come back into the starting lineup? Now, I'm going to ask you this as if Stack were injured. And then I'm going to also ask you this, if Stack were fit, do you think he still stays in?
If Stack were fit, no.
You don't think he would?
No, I don't think so. But even with Stack injured, I still don't think he's going to come into the lineup.
Okay, we have slightly different answers then. I think he'll play, but if Stack had been fit, I don't think he would have.
I think Gruev and Ampadu are going to start in midfield. I'm sorry to say.
And I think it's going to be all three. We should probably do our lineups now. You do yours if you want.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be Darlow, back three of Justin, Bornau and Strauch, with Bornau coming out if Biol is fit, which I'd expect he probably will be. So we'll say Biol instead of Bornau on this one. Then Bogle, Ampadu, Gruev, Goodmanson. Then Aronson, Mecha and Calvert-Lewin.
So you're resting of the three injured players, Okafor, and you're saying Biol or Bornau will play centre-back. But Goodmanson, he did sound most positive on Goodmanson.
I think Goodmanson will play. I think it's just fact, just putting doubt into Carrick's mind as to who's going to play. He likes to do those sort of mind games a lot, I think. So I think Goodmanson will play. I think he will.
Yeah, you're probably right. This is tough. This is tricky. I think if everyone's fit, my team is one different from Martin's, which is that I think Tanaka will play and Mecha won't, and it'll be like more of a stodgy 5-4-1 block out of possession with Tanaka kind of playing that hybrid stack role. I know that that's not the best use of his skills either, because he's quite a good deep receiver and build up. He's good on the ball. He's comfortable in those areas. But I also think he's good combining with Bogle. So maybe playing him in that right space might make sense for Bogle. And that's where I think he'd play in this team. And then Aronson would be on more the left side, I think. And that would kind of be your 4 midfielders out of possession, but in possession it would look slightly different. And then there's the team where it's like, does Farke go experimental? Because this is a bit of a, not, I wouldn't call it a free hit, but this is our hardest game left, definitely. And maybe he could try a 4-3-3, and maybe he could play Darlow, Bogle, Bornau, or Biel, whichever one's fit. Strouk, Justin, if Gudmundson's out. If not, Gudmundsson could come in and Justin could go on the bench. Ampadu, Tanaka, and Gruev in a midfield 3, Aronson, Calvert-Lewin, and Gnonto in a front 3. That's what
I think you're overthinking it with that.
I probably am, but I just wonder because we obviously did play a 4 recently, and we have done it a few times. It's just not been as common. So it's probably going to be a 5, and if it's a really negative lineup, as in everyone's injured, I think we all know that it's going to be Darlow, Bogle. Ampadu's probably going to play centre-back. Bornau, Strouk, Justin will have to play left wing-back. Tanaka will have to play with Gruev, Longstaff, Aronson, and Calvert-Lewin. Or Metcha will come in for one of those midfielders, but I'm not sure about that one. That was a lot of words and a lot of names, but I'm sure everyone kept up with us.
Yeah, for what it's worth, on Tanaka, I want him to start. 100% I want him to start. If it was to me, the lineup that I would want would be Darlow, Justin, Biol, Strouk, Bogle, Ampadu, Tanaka, and Longstaff is what I would go with, and then have have Gnonto behind Calvert-Lewin. That is what I
agree
would
with
do.
that. I agree exactly with that.
That is what I would do, but that is not what we're going to see 100%. It's not what we're going to see.
Gruev will be back in, I'm sure.
If it is what we see, then yeah, I'll be very, very delighted if Tanaka starts. And Longstaff definitely won't start. For some reason, Farke really does not like Longstaff now, and I know Longstaff is limited.
Him at one point.
Yeah, I know Longstaff is limited in what he can do, and there's a lot of Leeds tacticos who really don't like when he's on the pitch. But that's because when he's been on the pitch, Farke has been using him in deeper build-up areas, and that is not what he is. If you want to play Longstaff, you play him in the exact same thing that what Aronson has been doing. Yeah, he won't have the ball carrying that Aronson does, but what he will have is box crashing. What he will have is in press intensity. He'll have more output in terms of goal scoring than what Aronson will. Yeah, the chance creation will be a little bit down, but that's okay. I think you get a lot more with Longstaff in this than what Aronson is, but you just don't want him in deeper areas at all. You don't get that from him.
The only other thing with Longstaff is he is one of the better set piece takers in the side. So there is that.
Yeah, that's who. Yeah.
There is that also thinking of like Sacks out. Do we need to get him back in the side? There was a point in the season where he was taking them more than Stack. Even when they were both on the same pitch, sometimes he was taking
his
them
ball
more.
striking is solid from both set pieces and from shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he maybe could come in for that reason, because I'm not 100% clued up on who our set piece taker is going to be based on these lineups. Tanaka took a couple against West Ham.
It's going to be Gruev.
Justin take a few. Gruev will take a few with his left foot.
Aronson will take some.
Maybe Aronson as well. I think it'd probably be Justin and Gruev right now, based on that team that you've put down. But we'll see. We'll see. Right then, this is a hard one to answer because we're not at full strength. These are key players that are out. But which players from the team that we've kind of picked do we expect to cause them the most problems? And also, who would you think might struggle in this one?
If we go with the team which we've set, I would say Gudmundsson and Calvert-Lewin are the two main ones who can cause some problems. The combination of Bogle and Justin down our right channel, that could cause them some problems. That they do work together really nicely. And I do quite like Justin playing as the outside right centre-back because he's naturally a right-back. Yeah. And in possession, that guy basically becomes a right-back. So, yeah, you're not playing Bogle in his best position in this system. I prefer him at right back in a 4, but for obvious reasons we can't really play a 4 too often now because we just don't, especially with Rodon being out, we don't have any recovery pace at all, so you're just not going to get that from this. So that side could cause them some issues, and that's about the main ones for me. Metcha has scored some goals here and there out of nothing in an occasion, so he could pop up. But that's the main ones. Aronson is really not in good form at the moment. He's not scored or assisted for a while. And
one of his only goals came against Man United not long ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm not I don't want him to be starting. I think he's quite effective as a bench player, but he'll start.
I also think similar of Gruev. I kind of, even though we did throw it away against West Ham, I kind of enjoyed him coming on full of energy, ratting around, scampering after things, being a nuisance. I just don't always think he's the best starting player, but I think in that situation it can.
He's
work.
A great defensive midfielder to bring 100%. on when you want to either keep control of the ball for a bit to keep it away from the opponent, or just do a bit of dog work out of possession.
Yeah,
that kind
exactly. Of thing. But I am a bit concerned by some things. That right half space for them left for us, where Strout's going to have to be smart about his coming and going. Goodman's is going to have to be very on it when it comes to recovery, defending, and getting back in there to help, because the combination play between Fernandes and whoever the right winger is gets them into good positions quite often. Probably Mainu will get them into those positions as well. I think the fullbacks are a bit of an iffy point for Man United, so I would like to see us use some pace. It's a shame that James is out and Okafor's a doubt for that reason, because I do think that they'd have been useful here. Gnonto has scored against Scum. We've just called them Scum on the pod. I probably shouldn't say that. Man United, sorry. Any Man United fans listening? I just slipped out. Aronson scored against them. Bogle scored against them for Sheffield United. He scored against Man City and Chelsea in the same season. He's just an absolute boy, that lad. And Calvert-Lewin scored a couple of goals against Man United in his career. And I was looking at those players and thinking, who's the narrative pick here for who's going to have a good game and maybe do something? And I want to say Jayden Bogle's going to score at Old Trafford because he's done it before.
I would love that.
Hopefully I am right, but I'm probably not going to be. They did lose 4-2, so hopefully it's not a 4-2 loss. But he has scored there before.
Is he going to be an ailing screamer followed by us conceding 4?
We do love a fullback scoring as well, because Dallas scored 2. Obviously, he might be playing midfield that game, but he's more of a fullback for us, wasn't he, in his last stage of his career? Ailing scored, screamer. So, yeah, we've had a few fullbacks score at Old Trafford. Maybe it is Bogle's time. But I am worried about other things. Like, I think Luke Shaw's having a really top season, to be honest. It's just that people don't want to talk about it because they don't.
His left side deliveries are up there with the best in the league, for sure.
He's also played the most games for Man United of any player this season, just by 1, but he's still first. So he's having a great season for them.
He gets a lot of disrespect as Luke Shaw, but again, I don't mind him as a player.
He's a top left, but if he had a bit more speed, I think he'd be really, really good. But he's otherwise just a really solid player. He's kind of unfortunate that there are 2 really good English left backs right now that are coming through that are young. He's going to get ousted from that team because he has been a top servant for England as well when he's actually been able to play. But yeah, I think they've got problems that they can cause all over the pitch, and like I worry about Diallo and Fernandes on the right, and I worry about Luke Shaw's deliveries on the left. So it's hard to say who's going to struggle for us, where there are mismatches all over the pitch, other than the one you said, which I won't later on, which is the Calvert-Lewin against their centre-backs is going to be good for us. It should be good for us as an outball, for sure. Any changes to our tactics for this one, either in or out of possession? I'll quickly go on in possession. I think Man United will dominate ball, and I think that means that you're going to have to go long to Calvert-Lewin and get bodies around him to win balls high up the pitch, to actually have moments of levity where you can actually break on them. Calvert-Lewin here is going to be our most important player if he plays well. I think in possession, that has to be how the game looks. We can't look to build up all the time. There will be moments where we have the opportunity to do that, but they do press pretty aggressively, Man United. As for our press aggressively, I guess we've been doing that a lot. And for a game like this, because it's not a derby, but it's obviously a big rivalry match, you will have fans wanting and demanding you to be in their faces. I don't actually know if that's the best thing to do here. It might be for 10 minutes, but to kind of calm the crowd down on both sides. But if we press as aggressively as we can, I think they'll just cut through us, because Mainu is so press resistant. Fernandes is a very good footballer technically, and even Lissandro Martinez in build-up and Luke Shaw in build-up are really, really good players as well. So I think they'll be able to break through our press quite easily with those individuals. I don't think it's the best thing for us. Do you agree with that, or would you like to see us press quite aggressively against them?
No, I think I agree with what you're saying. I do think that we should take the foot off the gas in terms of how aggressive we are out of possession, and if only just because at the moment our squad is struggling, and we could do with not picking up any more impact injuries. That would be nice. Just to try, because high intensity always fosters more injuries. So I think this works for both reasons, both tactically and fitness reasons, to not be as aggressive. We can have some moments where we do press them aggressively when someone does something a bit crap in their build-up.
Casemiro's
But
quite cumbersome on the ball, so that's an example of if he's kind of caught on his heels a bit, press him.
Yeah, exactly. There's certain moments where we can, but I think largely the plan should be to mid-block this, and if or more low block. Like I said, I think our hope in this one comes from if we can frustrate them and stop their individual moments players from having nice moments. If we can do our best to limit space to their key players, to cutting off passing lanes, doing all the good things that you need to do to make a good mid-block work, I think that's where this game will be won for us. So I'm going to spoil the coming up questions. And that is where I think this game will be won or lost, is if we can stop their moments players from having their moments and our moments players having some of their own. We don't have very many of them in the squad at the moment with how limited we are. With Sack out, with Okafor probably out.
I was really hope Okafor makes the bench. I would say
Okafor off the bench would be a nice one to have in our back pocket, but I'm not expecting him to start. If he is fit enough to start, great, but I just hope he doesn't pick up another worse injury, because we could do with him for this running.
Yeah. While you were talking about injuries there, I was just thinking on that. Obviously, like, we've been really positive on this pod for most, not all, but most of the season, especially recently. Anyway, but about relegation and all that. But there are stranger things that have happened than injuries relegating a team. That definitely can happen. So we do need to, like you were saying, manage the squad a little bit in that sense and make the workload as little as possible, considering we still have an extra game in the cup as well.
We need to spread. We just need to rotate more. Daniel Farker needs to stop with playing his favourites all the time and actually use the squad that we've got. We've got Longstaff, we've got Tanaka, who have barely played any minutes. Seb Bornau's barely played any minutes. You've got a lot of players here who have got lots of room in their tanks to play more minutes to ease the load of the first team as where we can. It doesn't even have to be them starting. It can be bringing them on 20 minutes earlier than what you would do, taking off one player who you wouldn't normally take off, just to ease that load a bit. These kind of things. I don't think it's something that Daniel Farker will ever do, but it is something which I think he could do with doing a bit more of. But we probably won't see it.
Final question, and as you've said, you've touched on it already. What will this game of football look like, and where will the game be won or lost? About the moments, players, and all that. That makes a lot of sense. Obviously, have a lot more of them, so not to be negative, we don't do predictions. I would expect Man United to win this game if we played it 10 times more than we would win it. Having said that, it's still a game we can look to get something from if you want a bit of positivity, even though we've not won in like a lot of away games in a row. In 7 of the last 8, we've drawn them. So it's not like it's been us losing every single time. And the one we lost was in the last minute against Newcastle, the very last minute. So it's been a lot better away from home.
I would take a stinking 0-0 all day long.
100%. So if we can, it's kind of a where will it be won or lost thing is like, if our moments players, especially if they can come off the bench, do something. He's already been talking up Buonanotte potentially playing a part in this one. Maybe it's his time to shine. More likely he's going to be rubbish.
I hope so.
Fans are going to say,
nice.
Fans are going to say, oh, this is why he doesn't play, but when he's not really played at all, and he's probably not very sharp, and he's probably very rusty.
But Adam, he was crap in that one cup game.
Yeah, and that means he's just crap, full stop.
Yes,
anyway,
of course.
The other thing that can make us win or lose this game, as Martin says, if we can keep a 0-0 clean sheet, you can get points from this. I wouldn't be that surprised if we managed to 0-0 this. Problem is, I could also easily see Man United winning this 1-0 later on, and that being like our undoing, and everyone's frustrated because West Ham have Wolves on Friday. Just a reminder. There's going to get quite tight at the bottom, I think. Hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I just think that they've got more quality than us. That's obvious. They've got a better coach now. That's obvious, and so they probably will win, but we can frustrate them. We can keep them at arm's length, and we can look to hit them in transition moments if Calvert-Lewin has a good game, holding the ball up, making it stick a little bit, giving it to other players for us on the break. Then maybe, you never know, like Tanaka snapping into loose balls, either starting or off the bench, playing passes out wide and us breaking in numbers, then maybe we'll have opportunities, but Yeah, I'm not too confident, I have to say. Do you have anything else to add to on this question?
No, I think I've covered all I wanted to.
Lovely. So just a quick reminder then, the website for our Patreon is what?
Patreon.com/ASAW Patreon.
And we recorded on there recently, Martin, didn't we? So quickly, we should probably plug that. What did we do? Because it's still sort of in date.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on there. We talked about the cup game. That bit is out of date. But the other parts about the running, that is quite still important and relevant. It is only available to patrons. So if you want to access that content, you will have to pay us some money. But I did put that available to all patrons, so you can actually get it on the $1.99 tier. Just so you know. It's there. It's still relevant. Give a listen if you haven't already and you're a patron.
Yes, please. We also discussed our player of the season as it stands. Fully jinxed it, didn't we? Because we did say the last games could shape that, and if players are playing well in the team or if they're injured, that can shape things.
Even so, even as it stands, he's left off at a good point to still win it. if no one else can suddenly pull something out of the bag, who knows? Tanaka could suddenly come into the side and be amazing and score lots of goals.
The FA Cup and keep us up. Yeah. Brilliant. Would love that. He would go in my well wishes if he were to depart after that. But yes, patreon.com/ASAW Patreon for that. And that's basically it. Just a reminder to like and subscribe on YouTube. We're there today. Martin's already complimented my shirt off. You can only see that. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can only see that if you go onto YouTube. So if you're really curious to go and find it, go and look us up on YouTube and give us a nice view, a subscription, and a like, and all that. A comment as well. Comment on it and tell us how you feel about this game. Predict it. We don't do predictions. Anyway, that's all we have time for today. So we're back to review this game and then preview the Wolves game. But for now, all that's left for me to say is thank you, as always, to Martin.
Thanks you as well, mate.
And thank you, dear listeners and watchers as well. We appreciate your support and we'll see you soon.